Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Impossible, and with me I have Wyatt. Welcome to RetroGrade, where we rate Atari 2600 games, and this week we have Data Age and CBS Electronics. So this was a really good stream. I think we had a lot of fun with these. It should be interesting. You want to kick us off here?
Okay,
Airlock?
sure. Data Age is first.
Yep.
We'll go through all those.
Yep.
Just kind of in the order we played, it looks like.
Yep.
Airlock was not a...
the one that we kept running out of time on.
I'll be honest, that was nearly an unplayable game because you have to be perfect.
Right.
Like speedrunner perfect to get up each floor. You have 10 seconds and you don't have more, like, any wiggle room.
Yeah.
And it was really easy to jump into things and get stuck because there were two little blocks that you could walk into.
Those two things don't go together.
No.
It's one thing if you have some, it's just...
If you have 20 seconds and you can get stopped several times, but if you get hit by the Roomba or you get caught running into the Roomba, or if you get caught running into the thing, it was just an unplayable mess of a game with zero room for error to a level that was just unfun.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing if you have to be really good at something to play, but that wasn't hard. It was just not good.
Right. And, you know, the graphics on it were kind of like, it was very minimal.
Not a lot going on.
Didn't have any animation, just walking across.
Yeah, it didn't like...
I can't disagree. I felt like it was just...
Even if it showed the water rising or gave some other...
Yeah, that was, I think, the biggest issue, is there was no indicator on the screen that told you were going to run out of air.
Also, getting into the elevator and going up wasn't the trigger for you not dying. It was getting to the next floor. So you could be 3/4 of the way up the elevator, but if it hits that 10-second mark while you're going up, you still die.
All they would have had to do there is show the bottom of the screen turning blue. Just entire blue. Just to know that, hey, you're getting flooded, you know, and you know it could have been a cool game if that would have been the case of like you're trying to get through there and then you get 1 pixel of blue, 2 pixels of blue, and you know up to your head, you know. So it could have been, and there was no technical reason they couldn't have done that.
Yeah, it was just lame. It was just an unfun experience, and I didn't much care for it. Right. So it's a solid D. So not a great start out for Data Age, but I think they got better afterwards.
Well, this is alphabetical, so we can't totally go.
Sure, but we did start on Airlock, so
true.
You know, it's alphabetical, but it's how we played them too. Yeah. The next one is...
this one is Bermuda Triangle.
Oh yeah, the Bermuda Triangle. You know what? That one was okay. I'm trying to think of my full opinions on it. Had a kind of defender style of up and down shooting at things.
Yep.
There were a lot of things that wouldn't kill you but just stop you, and a lot of things that would kill you, and like it
was on rails.
Yeah, it was on rails. You could never turn around.
What if it had been Defender-like? What if they'd have said, you know what, you can go this way, you can shoot left and shoot right?
Well, I think that would have made it a little bit better because then you could have seen, oh, there's a treasure there, I can turn around and go get it. Mm-hmm. And then maybe there could have been levels. Even if it was just, you've gotten all the treasures, and it resets, which is not uncommon for a lot of these games, to be honest. The levels were just the same thing, but again...
I think it would have been a better game in that regard.
It would have been. Yeah. The way they had it set up was kind of... I'm going to give it a C because it was kind of droll. You couldn't pick up more than one thing. When you picked something up, the noise was really annoying.
Yeah.
You go up...
You have a thing on you. And it's like...
I'm aware. I picked it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, you kind of had to be in the middle to catch your boat. Right. Otherwise, things from the back would just blow you up.
Yeah.
But also things from the front would be coming towards you. So it was it was just messy, I think, is the big problem.
I'm gonna go with probably a low B. I thought that once we figured out what was good and what was bad, I mean, basically everything above in the water was bad. Your boat there was good and bad. It kept alternating. At least that was kind of nice. It was, you knew that, oh, this is a bad enemy. That's going to be the good guy. Alternating, and then down below you had to kind of wait until You didn't have a bomb, you know,
The Bermuda bombs.
yeah, whatever. So that aspect was kind of interesting. All the stuff on the screen, it was really hard if they came up behind you. I think, like you said, if you could shoot backwards, that would have been much cooler.
It would have been fine. Even if you couldn't go backwards,
Yeah, just shoot
turn
backwards.
around.
Yeah, something. You know, I always look at these games and think, how, if I were making this game, how I would make it better. And it's like, some of the game loops that they've come up with are great. They would work really well. However, there's just some things that kind of prevented it from doing
make it
well.
fall from the potential it has.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stick with the C there.
There you go.
Bugs, also not a lot of fun, to be honest. I'm not trying to like be. Data Age, I think, is a lot better than like
Some of the others
we've seen, but Bugs and Airlock were just not fun games.
It was really weird. It seemed, for me, it seemed like there were some aspects to it that were kind of cool. The bugs looked good. We talk about the depth. With
The depth
that was
kind of
neat.
of the bottom.
That was kind of cool, but it almost seemed weird, misplaced in this game.
Like, why do that?
Yeah, it almost seemed like it could have been different. But it was very unforgiving. You know, the guys go up to the top. Well, you have like no time to be able to deal with it. And then with the guy that comes out and then attacks you, it was really chaotic. And do we have any games on there that lasted more than 30 seconds?
Not really, no. And just the little guy that attacks you, also, it's really confusing because you have to shoot at him, but if he touches your cursor, you die.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to... You gotta like really whip it, and it's just not easy enough to do. I don't even think on a paddle it would have been easy enough to do.
I guess I gotta rate it.
I liked it a little better than Airlock, because at least I knew what was going on.
Yeah, both of them, I think they were unnecessarily hard.
Yeah.
Even if they would have relaxed
they were not
the timer
a
on
challenge. They were just
annoying.
Like, I don't know. I enjoy a challenging experience, challenging game now and then, overcoming something.
Yeah.
But that's when it's like, okay, this is a matter of skill. I don't think my skill over time would have really gone up enough to make this a fun set of games.
I agree.
In both instances, it would have still been annoying.
Right.
So that's just my opinion, though.
Sure.
The encounter at L5. Mm-hmm. What was this?
That was the one that we're shooting.
Oh, that had the grid.
No, it wasn't the grid.
No, that was
the ships that got bigger, and it had the orange ship that was like what he would.
Oh,
like
yeah. Okay, I remember. It was Space Invaders, but
ish. Yeah,
it had the Space Invader style of things are coming down at you, and you have to shoot up at them.
Sure. Shoot up at Space Game.
Yeah, shoot up at Space Game. This one I will give a low B.
Okay.
I think it had a little bit more fun to it. I was having fun. It was kind of awkward in some ways, and there was a certain point where I realized for a good 60% of the game, if you hold still, you're going to do better than if you move.
Yeah, and we talked about that. It's like making it too hard on yourself.
Yeah. But it had some cool graphical stuff to it. And I will say that even though I wasn't super into it at the moment, I can see how this could be fun if you put more time into it.
It's one of those for me that, there's ignoring the orange guy, which was like almost impossible to shoot.
And there's some figuring out there. It felt like there should be a way to get him, because if you're not firing, you can't be hit.
Right.
So there might be a way to like...
We could have missed something, yeah.
It is possible. And I'm going to give it a little bit of leeway for that, but...
Right. I liked the graphics for the ships. It was kind of cool how they kept getting bigger and bigger, and it kind of gave that 3D look to it. They were definitely doing something cool with the graphics. And one of the things I do find with this kind of game is it is one that's kind of, we've talked about like Zen type games where you're not looking at anything in particular.
No, you're just kind of going for it.
Stare through the screen, and just because you kind of see everything peripherally, because you don't really need to focus on your guy. You really don't even need to focus on this. You're really kind of just focusing on the shots that are being fired. Mm-hmm. And from that aspect, if we didn't have like the little orange guy that was annoying, and again, we might have missed something on how we were supposed to kill him. The other part of the game was actually kind of
interesting. Yeah.
It was kind of pleasant. So I'm gonna give that a B as well. I think higher for me than Bermuda Triangle, just because Bermuda Triangle was just so much stuff on the screen and made it really hard. But yeah, this one took a little different tack on the space shooter game. It was paddle based, so it was a little different. And what could they have done to fix it? And it's kind of like the orange guy. Figure out what's going on with that guy.
Just make things a little clearer as to how to deal with them.
Yeah,
there's just
it may just be that you just have to get good on fighting that guy.
Partly, but the vision. This is something that going into the next one I can mention. Frankenstein's monster. I'm actually going to give an A, because that game was fun and had a goal that you were working towards.
And it was pretty obvious after the first couple minutes. You got to figure
after a moment. There's clearly something down here. We're at the top. We got to go down there. The only way else to go is back up top. And even though there were some idiosyncrasies that were tough, like when the birds were coming at you, it's like, do you just avoid them? What are you trying to do? Once you figure out the path, though, it was a game where you can find shortcuts, where you can time your jumps, figure out how to do it. You can start moving quicker. And you had a goal of boxing up Frankenstein, and then you would, I assume, win, maybe start over.
We never got there. We didn't have enough time.
But it felt like that's where it was going, and it felt good because of that. And because of that, it was pretty clear how to deal with things. Mm-hmm. After a moment, it became a lot easier to know what you were doing.
Mm-hmm. The messaging was really good. The communication to the player of it's pretty obvious now at the beginning. When you're on that level that has a green tunnel thing that was a little odd. It's I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, when I tried it out, I was I just want to make sure it worked. And then you went through the thing, and I was oh, that's a trap door. Oh, because I literally played it 5 seconds just to make sure.
Yeah.
But it was oh, okay. So now it made a lot more sense on what you were trying to do.
Because you can see the ropes and
yeah. And we talked about the animation on the guy. The graphics were great. They did a really good job on the graphics. Frankenstein's head could have been a little different.
Yeah,
but
it was a little cyclops.
But the fact that it was really cool. You noticed when the lightning would strike, he would start becoming more green.
And the greener he got, the more you knew.
Yeah,
and after a moment, you could figure out, okay, I probably don't want that to happen.
Yes, and it was just I'm going to give it an S. I actually think that this is really kind of it had multiple screens. We talked about that.
Yeah,
I believe it had some music playing. I can't remember. Yeah,
at least at several points.
It was when Frankenstein woke up and came at you, it was a little freaky. It was
it's pretty good for the time.
Yeah.
I like game over screens like that.
Yeah.
To be honest, the only thing that holds this back from S for me is the fact that the whole game, none of the enemies kill you. The only thing that kills you is the water, which to a certain extent felt like made that the only challenge. Otherwise the challenge was your time, and I think they should have leaned into that a little bit more.
Sure.
The fact that you can fall through into the water, and instead of it just resetting you,
have to maybe slow you down. You have to swim to the shore or something.
Maybe you can't. Maybe there's a ladder on the island. Yeah. You can't climb up on the other side. Yeah. I almost think lives were a detriment to this game because the whole point is that Frankenstein is slowly coming to life.
Right.
And if you get stuck on a part, it doesn't really matter how.
Yeah, I agree.
Your lives shouldn't necessarily count in that way, and I think that would have been cooler, and that's the one thing that I would have done to change it. Otherwise, I think it truly would have been an S.
There was a couple things that were kind of, I think I would call almost glitches or something that definitely could have been fixed.
It really
the collision detection.
Sometimes it felt like should have landed on a platform.
Yeah, and other times how are you landing on that platform? Because it's the trapdoor and where you would land, it just doesn't line up. How's that possible?
It's a little uncertain where you're gonna be.
Fall, and that's a problem. Also, one of the things that was also interesting, the spiders that would come down, they'd come down like a little bit and then disappear. It was a little glitchy.
It was imperfectly made.
Yes.
It's just it had such a good frame that I still really
I can overlook those things.
And that's very fair. And I think you will ought to, because that was still a very fun experience.
Yep.
The next one, Journey Escape, for the band Journey. Kind of a weird concept.
Especially since you have nothing. There's nothing to do with actual music.
There's no lore of Journey. Journey's not some sort of.
I mean, they had the scarab, the cool album
was their
cover
symbol,
stuff.
though.
Yeah. It's
it just, I don't know. Daft Punk had a whole album of like alien Smurf musicians, like a movie. You could have turned that into a video game. And
they had a small amount of stuff to work with.
And it was like, so they
granted, this is a port of the arcade game.
But they ended up making it so that, port or not, just your journey running away from people. It's like, okay, sure.
And in the beginning, without the manual, with the manual, manual definitely helped, because it was like, all right, so you're looking for the blue guys and the Kool-Aid man.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Yes,
I'm hesitant to give it an A because I actually did have a lot of fun with it. I think I'm going to give it a high B.
Okay,
because I enjoy once you started running and you could get into a pretty good flow of dodging things even from the top.
Yep.
Like the speed felt really good.
Yeah.
And it did feel really good when you got to the ship, to the Scarab ship, or to the one of the good guys, because that temporary invincibility really felt good.
Yes.
But it's a very shallow experience.
Yes.
There's not a lot going on. And I guess once you get all the band members,
you win. I don't know. Yeah.
Or maybe you start over. And it's just, I don't think they really nailed where they were going with that.
For its flaws, I actually had fun with this one. Now, starting off not knowing what any of these things are, I'm like, what are you doing? You're
Why
just
is everyone
around.
taking my money?
But then it's like, okay, so you're running from fans and paparazzi.
Also, the bank account of Journey is only $50,000.
Yes, they need to be paid more. Yeah,
I feel like that's a little that's criminal.
Yeah, but that means I
also their manager definitely had like input. Like make the manager the ultimate power up that gives them money and makes sure they're happy.
Exactly.
It's like right. Sure.
Exactly. I actually, for its flaws, I actually had quite a bit of fun with it. So
also very interesting that groupies, their fans steal $200.
Yeah, it's like
give me your money, Journey. I love you.
They look like hot dogs on legs. They were a little odd. I mean, they're supposed to be hearts, but
yeah.
Anyway, Sssnake.
I'm hesitant to put it in D.
Okay.
Because I don't think it was that bad. But it's
playable.
But it's really close to D for me. I'm going to put it low C because it wasn't a lot of fun. It was pretty lame, actually.
Yeah.
Even when things got... Like, it was a little more interesting. It wasn't so lame when you had two snakes going in different directions. But there was no reason...
You couldn't shoot the snake.
No. So why is it even called that?
Yeah,
it should have been called Weird Dragon Slime Monster. Because that's what you fight.
And shooting between cracks.
Yeah, and also I just didn't really like the mobility.
Yeah,
it felt really limited and really lame. So
I'm gonna give it a D plus. I thought that it was just wasn't baked. It wasn't. It was kind of like, this isn't done. What are you doing? Shooting the monsters up and down. And then having a snake to avoid might have been okay, but having to line up on the cracks and stuff, that was...
Also, you could line up on the cracks, and sometimes they were going so fast that literally they would fly through a constant stream of bullets.
Yeah, some of the speeds that they got out to was a little insane.
It's like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, okay, now you're going to make them that fast, then remove those barriers.
I don't know. Different. No barriers, just have the snake fly around. Yeah. Also, since the snake can't be destroyed anyway, does it need to be amongst squares?
Yeah.
It was sort of odd in that way. Yeah. So that's my big takeaways.
There you go.
I can't, to be honest, I'm just trying not to overstack, because I feel like Data Age has some, high tier stuff in the overall 2600 library. but it's like, man, they've got some stinkers too.
Yeah. Warplock.
Warplock.
What was Warplock?
What was Warplock?
Yeah.
What
I'm
did
trying to think. We played it.
Warplock was?
Let's see.
We didn't play it for very long, I don't think. Right. Oh no, I do remember this one. This was worse Space Invaders. But it had the 2-player, remember? It was like a green... You were like in the middle of the screen. They were coming down.
Oh, right.
They could go under you, and you had to kind of avoid them. And you just had the one life. Once you died, you just had to restart.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I don't feel bad about that. I'm giving that one a D. That game...
Yeah.
That game was not very fun.
Yeah, and the fact that we couldn't really remember what was going on, it was pretty forgettable.
It was.
I'm not going to go so far as to say I'm D. I'm going to go for a C.
It was memorable enough that I do remember it.
Yeah,
but it was not a fun experience.
Right.
Which is a shame because I thought it looked like it could have been fun. And some of the graphics, I liked the space. It was simple, but it worked. I don't know. Just to sum up, Data Age, I guess if we had a little card for Data Age as a whole, I'd throw it up in B because they had a very mixed bag. Right. It's kind of weighted towards the bottom, but some of the stuff at the top is like Frankenstein's monster genuinely is close to S for me and was S for you. So
okay. Let's move on to CBS.
CBS Games, totally different company with interesting ports mostly, it seemed. Blueprint was the first one we played. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put that in the middle of B. Because Blueprint, the versions, you a big fan of Blueprint from your childhood. This version, a lot weirder. Because
some stuff they changed.
You have to stack it in order, which, especially if you die, is impossible to remember where anything is.
Yep.
And trying to get it in order is kind of a pain in the butt. And it's not like you can put it in a different house. Like, okay, to remember, I'll put it in this house or whatever. And you couldn't be like, oh, okay, so it wasn't this one, it was this one. Let me swap the two. Yeah. That was a little weird. And then when you fire your shot, it's
glacial.
It's so slow. You have to, that is the wildest leading shot you have to do because he has to make 2 full laps most of the time. You have to be like, all right, I fire. He runs by. He runs by again, but the third time he just plants right into it.
So it's just, spray and pray. Basically, you just, boom. Okay, let's see if it hits him.
I really hope this gets him because it's gonna take 2 weeks postage to fire again.
Here's the thing. As I said, I loved Blueprint, and I played the arcade game. I mostly played the 8-bit, the home computer game, and this kind of captured most of the spirit of it, but they changed some key things, and I don't know why. I don't understand why they did that. In the other game, you can build the machine in any order. It didn't have any kind of order. The weird thing was it was like you stack it, and whereas on the other one game, it's a bigger sprite and stuff. And I feel like while this... the game itself is good. This port is...
middling.
Yeah. I want to give it an A.
But... Yeah, I feel it. It's kind of hard not to give it a B because for this port, it's not quite living up to the standard that I think you have for it either.
That's unfortunate. Playing this really makes me want to play the original because I'm like, it's like, oh, it's a cool game. It's a really unique game. You're building a machine to shoot a hot dog, basically, is up on this top. Yeah.
Big egg man or something. I'm not really sure. But just doesn't execute on the formula as well as the other versions. Gorf, I'm going to give a solid C+ because it was fine, but I don't like the shot canceling thing. I actually think that kind of sucks. Right. Even though, you could at times oh, I'm gonna miss, I'll cancel. That's never gonna outweigh the number of times that you fire a second before it hits because you think it's already hit, or your brain's acting faster than that, and so it's like,
because you're already on to the next shot you want to take.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, great.
You're still like, okay, boom. You get into that flow with the shooter. The only one time at a time. That would even be preferable to canceling.
Yeah, because
canceling is just yeah, you're right.
It just ended up making it like difficult to know when you were hitting things or if things were going to take more than one shot. Right. It was hard to know if we were hitting that one bigger boss-like character.
Right.
Because
there was no indicator. I finally was like, oh, I killed him. Yay.
Yeah, it was like, I guess.
And it starts over. And the whole concept of Gorf, if you're a Gorf fan, forgive me, but it seems like, it was almost like, and of course it's an arcade game. It seems like they really just went, these are cool games. Let's just put them all in one game.
Yeah.
And because, everybody loves all these other games, so they must love all of them together.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite work that way.
No. But Mountain King, on the other hand, Mountain King's tough not to give either an S or a high A. And honestly, it's making me want to pull Frankenstein up a little bit too. But I think I'm just going to put that at S. Leave Frankenstein at A because I still have some issues with it.
Sure.
Mountain King, though, worked exactly as it seemed like it wanted to.
You did have to get a little bit of manual info, but it's a little bit more complex.
It's a complex game, but it does, even though there are difficulties with it, I don't feel like any of the difficulties were because of a failing on the game's part.
Right.
For the most part. Yeah. I think the thing that would almost made me put it in A instead were like jumping was difficult.
A little awkward.
There were things like that were awkward. But also, once you got the hang of it, you could make it work a lot better. Mm-hmm. And I just think overall it had a very cool style. Even though you were just a stick figure, even before you said it, I knew that those were diamonds. They just had, they did just enough to make me feel like those were diamonds without anyone saying anything.
Right.
The Mountain King theme playing was pretty cool.
The cool thing is it plays, you're getting close because it starts playing a little bit of music. It's like, oh, I must be getting close to the temple.
Yeah, it has some cinematic air to it that is really interesting and ends up adding to the experience. I think it was cool. I think, getting used to it a little bit more probably would have improved my time. Playing it, like the fun I had, but that doesn't mean it wasn't fun. It just meant that I wanted to play more. But we just didn't have the opportunity because of technical issues.
It's a long play type game.
It's also it's a 7-minute per level game, which is kind of unheard of in these old.
It's one of those things that it doesn't work well for a stream where you're trying to knock out the 15 games. I had some experience with Mountain King. That's why I'm like, I want you to play this because I already knew that I really like this game.
It gives me kind of the vibe of like Spelunky.
Yeah, actually, and Spelunky is based off other games, Spelunker and the older games where you are doing that. You're going around this cavern and
trying to get the treasure and getting
out. Yeah, and that used to be a theme. And for me, I kind of look at it going, this version is great. I think they added for the 8-bit, but I kind of feel like it's one of those that they might have improved the graphics a little bit, but the gameplay is still the same. Mm-hmm. The idea of it, the scrolling, the graphics were actually really cool, even though it was sort of black and white-ish. They did good. It was like it seemed like almost like you were playing a game that was in a high-res mode, even though it was like low colors. But the graphics like on the guy were really crisp, and his stick figure, but he had like he had like this,
I don't really know what that is.
It's like I think you were trying to do like a flashlight without a direction, or there was something.
When you press up, it just does this.
It was just
which I guess is him receiving the crown. But everywhere else he's just like,
I don't know. But it was just
not sure what you want from me.
Really, really cool, and
it was a fun experience.
Yeah. So I gave it an S. So no problems here. So next, Omega Race.
Omega Race.
Came with its own accessory.
Yeah, I'm going to say Omega Race was an A of a game because it played really well, and I thought it was fun.
Having that second button makes a huge difference.
It really does, because
you can hit the gas, or you can hit the fire.
And you can kind of do both at the same time. It just worked.
Yeah,
I don't know. It worked as a concept, and they pulled it off. So I thought it was fun.
It is based on an arcade game. We didn't get super deep on it, and we could have played it longer. But the fact of the matter is that it plays really well. It's not, and I think that truly there's a certain amount of skill there of being able to play it longer to be able to get into the mode of, it has the inertia thing going on, so you can kind of go spin around a corner.
There was
a lot of cool stuff going on.
I cannot fault it as a game. It functioned exactly as it meant to, and it gave a unique experience on the system because of that second button especially. Right. And I gotta give it its props.
Yeah.
There's not a ton to say about it though. It was very straightforward and simple.
Right.
You also weren't racing anything, which is sort of weird.
Yeah.
You're shooting
Omega thinks you're racing.
Yeah, no, you were.
It would have been funny if it was like an actual...
Yeah, trying to avoid death as you race, maybe. But that was a little strange for the name, but fun game.
Yeah.
Solar Fox, which also used... Both of these games used rack instead of level.
Oh, the other one used rack too?
Yeah, this one did as well, and
rack.
I don't really know what the heck that's about.
Yeah.
But Solar Fox didn't like nearly as much. It was fine. It was pick up dots. And that's the end of the sentence. I'm going to give it a low B.
Okay.
It did what it was trying to do well enough. It just wasn't really a very exciting time. It's like, if you do it really fast, you get to skip one level. And it's like, neat.
That's not that much of a...
That's not a reward also. This is a score-based game.
This is going to be harder as you go the next level. Yeah, you're right.
Sort of, you almost don't want to. The two modes of either press the button to go fast or press the button to slow down were kind of weird.
Right.
Because... that was fine, but that's the thing. It was fine, is I think the big thing.
I think I'm going to give it a little higher because it was very kind of obvious after playing it for just like 2 seconds on what you're trying to do. And, it looks good. I think that the problem with it is really sort of and I'm not sure if this got to be a port, but it's got to, the game loop, I think, was flawed. It's like the game itself, it's like, even if it does what it's set out to do, which I think it did, that doesn't make it fun, And I feel like
over time, it's just not as fun as other dot collecting games.
Exactly.
Dot collectors.
Pac-Man in a ship form. There you go.
So, Tunnel Runner, though, the next one, is kind of hard to rank because it's kind of difficult to actually know what you're doing. You pick things up and then maybe you have a compass and maybe you don't. It's kind of interesting, so I don't want to rank it low. I'm going to give it the highest C because it had cool graphics, had a very interesting concept, but was not exceptionally fun.
Right.
It was like, wow, someone could do a lot with this.
Yeah.
Not this, but someone.
Yeah, I feel like they were trying to break new ground with it.
Also, you couldn't seemingly defeat any of the monsters.
Right. There was just there. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to give it a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here and say that there's probably stuff that we missed and we need to look up a manual.
And maybe
play
that's
it longer.
True. That might
we were getting to the end of the stream, so we kind of didn't have a lot of time to spend.
Might be a bring back one day kind of game.
And especially if you want to see more of that, definitely leave a comment.
I'll re-rank it.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll have to do a video where we just re-rank the ones we go back to a little bit.
I thought that what they were doing with this game was amazing. Doing a dungeon crawler on the 2600 in a first person view with a map, that was just really cool. I really like that idea. Now, the idea of the actual gameplay, as you said, the monster is just there, and I think you die, and maybe you could leave. I don't know. But
you could turn around, but if you got cornered, you were just dead. There was no fighting back because the button pulls up the map.
Right.
there's not another button.
Yeah, so it's true. Yeah, that becomes problematic. Yeah. That could have been a case for another joystick. You know?
Again, the more we get through these, the more it's like I understand starting with one button. Eventually, this system could have supported 2 buttons. That is clear because someone did it.
Obviously, but there's actually using the same layout on the pins and everything. There was another pin that wasn't used on the joystick. It could have been a second button, like super
buttons
easy.
Would have made
the thing is
a lot of games better.
The problem with it, I see, is you would need to make it so that it would be something you would hold. And it would be top and trigger kind of thing.
To be honest, it just sort of seemed
like on the top. That would have worked.
They just needed a play tester to figure out how to design it. But I think if they had done that, the 2600 would have had a very different library of I think some better games.
Yeah,
not necessarily all.
But they could have come out with that in like 1980 or something, way before any of these titles, and it could have been like. Well, because I imagine some of these guys that did the ports were like, how are we going to implement this with Omega Race? Well, they're like, we'll just do a separate peripheral. And it's like, that's rough. That
costs money and time.
Yeah, that's a lot more. If you had to develop hardware, that's a whole other thing for a software company to do. So.
Yeah, and it's like, when the company itself releases a peripheral, that gives you an option.
Sure, exactly.
That's so that would have much the Wii.
Yeah, how much would have been? How much cooler would it have been if some of these games they just had a second button you could have just done?
Would have been great, but
anyway, it is what it is. Last game, Wizard of War.
I'm gonna give the lowest of the A's, but still an A.
Okay.
I really liked what they did with it. I think the multiplayer is pretty fun. The fact that monsters flash less the more you kill them is kind of cool.
I think that's a technical thing, but
but not all of the games did that.
Well, that was a limitation. The game and obviously the arcade didn't flash like that. Now there was cases where they were invisible. That was a different story.
Sure, absolutely. But I mean, just like back in the Froggo episode, that one, those tanks, doesn't matter how many of you blew up, they were always flashing.
Yeah.
This one, not so bad because they got lessened over time. And as they went invisible or teleported around, that was reasonable. It felt reasonable to do it. And also, when they would go invisible, everything else would flash a little less too. So they did quite well with those limitations. I think it feels like there's a bigger game that this was built off of.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, so it feels like I'm missing something.
The deal is
it just feels like this particular version is missing some secret sauce that would make me love it more than anything, because it was a cool game with a neat concept, and I like the multiplayer kind of working together deal.
Right.
I also like that even though you are working together, having that friendly fire meant that there was a risk whenever you took a shot, that you had to be sure of it. And that was kind of neat. There was some neat stuff to it. I just think that there is something that exists for this game that doesn't exist in this version that would make it like wild.
So Wizard of War is one that I played a lot as a kid. Not this version, but like on the computer and on the arcade. And I loved Wizard of War. Unfortunately, I didn't have anybody else to play with. So I was just solo playing. But the deal is that you're right in that there was more to the game. They had more levels, and we didn't get that. I don't think that this version has it, but there was like an arena. There was a few other ones.
Sure.
I think there was one where everything was invisible. There was a bunch of different things, and also the Warlock and the Wizard of War, I don't think came out on the first levels. And so this one, it was kind of weird getting into that. So like getting to the Wizard of War was a big deal. On this, it was just like, whoa, it's right here. And I could be wrong, leave a note in the comments, but the deal was it made it more special. But that being said, I think they did a really good job with it. Yes, there's flashy, but there's a lot of enemies on the screen. I'm going to give it a high A for me. I thought, there's preventing it from being the S on some of the technical things, and the fact they left out some stuff, or it seems like they left out some stuff. But overall, I thought it was really good. So
yeah. So all in all, these two companies released an interesting smattering of games. Mm-hmm. Neither of them released a ton, but I gotta say, a worthwhile library. even despite Data Age's 3Ds.
Yeah.
You know, no matter whose list you're looking at.
Yeah.
And there's an argument for both of them to have 4.
Yeah.
So so despite that, they still made some really cool games.
Yep.
With Journey, Frankenstein, and all that, they did something cool.
Yeah.
And I think CBS also, honestly, produced some really interesting games.
Right.
And it's kind of a shame that this is like the extent of what they did. Because if they had had more time with, you know, if the system had gone a little longer or if the crash hadn't happened, I don't know what all the reasons are. But I feel like these companies could have both
gotten better
and had a lot more momentum to make games, maybe even on future consoles and things.
Right.
Whereas I don't really know if either of these companies, what happened to them after this, because there's not...
Well, CBS Electronics was, you know, I think a division of CBS, you know, or something.
Yeah, and they might have just stopped and been like, we're not doing it.
Well, a lot of times these companies, you know, I've read a lot of things, it's like they tried, they put their hat in there, and then they're like, yeah, we didn't have any hits, so we gave up after a while. And I get it, you know, if you're not successful at something, don't just keep... You know, it depends on how determined you are, but, you know.
Sure, and especially when you've got as much money as a company like CBS, maybe you could have had a little more wiggle room to try and find that success.
Sure.
But again, it's also the issue of the timing, because then there was a big crash, and it was like, maybe video games are done. So.
It's just a fad. Yeah. Well, you know, we don't need it as video game.
And it's like, by the time things cook up again, it's like... Well, we don't have anyone who knows anything about any of this new stuff, so there's really no point in us trying to jump back in for something that didn't do great the first time anyway.
Right. You know, seeing some of these games, I could see it would be very interesting to see a reimagined version of some of these, like Mountain King and Frankenstein, because those were, you know, as far as I know, those were exclusives.
Solid concept. I would love to see, like I said, Spelunky being what it is, a version of Mountain King today, I think, could do well. With a few added bells and whistles, I think that as a concept could come back.
Frankenstein's monster, that was really solid. I mean, it was pretty simple, but the idea of it was really cool. I loved, you know, we talked about this a lot in like the messaging. Go ahead.
Frankenstein is the progenitor to Dead by Daylight. Current horror, you know, asymmetrical multiplayer game.
There you go.
Just saying. Anyway, go on.
We've talked a little bit about the messaging from the game to the player and letting them know certain things. They did a great job with Frankenstein's monster.
They did. They really did.
It's like, it's showing him going up versus, say, Airlock, which did a horrible job of that. You know, it's like, you got to let the player know what's going on. You know, like the Bermuda Triangle, they tried with the music, but that was just more annoying than anything. It would have been better.
Tell you where to go.
Yeah, it would have been better had they have done like an icon on the screen going, "Hey, you got a treasure," or, you know, personally, I think it would be awesome.
Or I don't know.
One of the things that would have been awesome on that game is if you could get more than one treasure, and then you're like you're kind of pressing your luck. You know, it's like the more you get, the more you're going to lose if you don't get up there, you know. So there's things like that.
Also, it feels unnecessary to have an enemy ship to a certain extent, because it's like...
Really?
You also can't even shoot the enemy ship. So it's
you just got to avoid, wait. A lot of avoidance, and it's just kind of...
It makes it so that it's less interaction from the player, and that's not necessarily what you want all the time with this kind of thing. So, just as a hot take... These games, they were decent.
Yes.
These smattering. I liked this episode.
It was kind of cool combining them too, because we're now in the point where, you know, we're getting down on the number of games, so we got to combine them to multiple companies. So it's kind of interesting to kind of compare and contrast
as we're going.
Yeah.
In the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So honestly, good stuff.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about our lists.
Yeah, post your list in the bottom. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, on some of these games, if we miss something major, obviously let us know. We were trying this time to mess with the difficulty settings just to see if there was something different that made it harder or easier. Didn't really notice much.
Any advice? Always happy to hear it. And you know what? Give us your favorite CBS show.
There you go. Favorite CBS. All right, there you go.
It tracks. It CBS.
Tracks. All right.
Do they have good shows? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, there you go. So I think that's it. So,
I think so for this time.
Yep. See you in the next adventure. Take care. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I post new videos all the time and I wouldn't want you to miss any. If you'd like to see more of this series, be sure to click up here. And if you'd like to see something else, be sure to click up here.